I don't want to move around too much because I don't want to mess my hair up. It's getting late. Anyway, I'm going to get started. I want to thank Jake Oaks and the team for pulling this together. My wife and I, Julian, are grateful to be back in Utah. Julian, would you stand up? Julian's got her Nancy Reagan red on, and I want y'all to see it. Julian's here with her, where'd Jean go? Oh, she had to go, I'm sorry. Well, 2 of her 8 siblings are here with her. They live out here in Utah. And our beautiful Marilyn, who's married to Mike, who's the oldest, they have treated me so well and treated me as family. Even though they're white, I consider them my family. I love them dearly. So Julian and I are grateful to be here, grateful that you all are here. It gives me confidence, it gives me hope, it gives me happiness and joy, even in a world that's full of chaos right now, because of you all, because of your desire to be here, to be part of this. When you go to the Capitol, when you go to rallies, when you're at the school board meetings, it does make a difference. And I want to thank you all for your faithfulness and your diligence and doing those things, because you're doing those things that are going to justify the intervention of the heavens to heal this land, because it's God that's going to do it. We just want to be on his side when that time is right. Thank you. You see, so many friends, people that we've served in Liberty, served on the Hill with, and it just does my heart good to be here, to see you all. You know, when Julene and I left with our kids in 2016, we had no idea that you all were going to be moving with us. And what do I mean by that? Back east, the schools are what you all are trying to become in your schools. And I don't mean to say that in jest, but back east, and Amala said it beautifully, it's all about race, gender identity, and sexual identity. Only 1 in 5 kids of color in America can read at an 8th grade proficiency level. So we should be focused on reading, writing, and arithmetic. That's what parents of color want. That's what all parents want for their kids when they go to schools, so they can compete in the world. Reading, writing, arithmetic, having a love of learning. And I firmly believe a lot of our teachers want to do that. They really do. But the problem is we have a centralized bureaucracy that's calling all the shots, and that's where the problem is. So we have a 12th grade son at home, and we have a 14-year-old girl. She's in private school. He is in government public school. It's this last year, and everything in the curriculum, including gym class, has race, gender, and sexual identity woven into the curriculum. And I guess we could try to legislate it out. The problem is the social justice factories that Amala talked about are producing what we're experiencing. They're producing the teachers and the bureaucrats that are calling the shots. So what we've done in our home, since I can't even remember how long, but we take very seriously that family devotional, where we spend time studying scriptures. We spend time teaching principles of liberty. Julene introduced that into our family devotional several years ago. I thought she was a Glenn Beck right-wing nut. But little did I know, as I sat there and listened to her teach, I began to absorb those principles that she was teaching our kids. And then we would then talk about the leading features of the Constitution. They don't have to be scholars of the Constitution, but understand that there's 7 articles and that there are 28 amendments, and which amendments, as Jake so beautifully highlighted, have taken us away from power, we the people, and put it in Washington, D.C., or even the state capitol right here in Salt Lake City. And so we've been very intentional about that. Because we're raising kids of color, we teach them who they are. So when they leave every day, when they're told by the Jon Stewarts of the world that this country is for white people and not for them, that they know that that's BS. Because we study history. And we study what black people did as opposed to what was done to us. When white people were at their worst, black people were at their best. And we don't tell those stories. We had the highest marriage rate in America up until the 1960s. The highest marriage rate. Even during the Great Depression, the 1930s, the black unemployment rate was above 40%, but they had the highest marriage rate because it's all about family. When you have a strong family unit and you've got God, you can overcome anything. That's why I don't understand Christians today who want to play I'm the victim game, but then at the same time in church on Sunday talk about how great God is and that we can overcome anything with Him. It doesn't match up. So we've been very intentional about teaching our kids about who they are and where they come from. So any institution that has Christian values associated with it, the family, the Constitution, they are under attack by the adversary because he knows that the core unit that determines the strength of any society, any strong society, is the family. He knows that strong local government is the key to preserving individual freedom. He knows the only reliable basis for sound government and just human relations is based on natural law or God's law. He knows all of these things, so he's attacking them. And he can't debate the Constitution on its merits, so he's going after the people that wrote it. He's going after the people that wrote it. So if Kunta Kinte from Roots and Betsy Ross had nothing to do with writing the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence, it can't be any good because the founders were flawed. But the ideals that they produced are eternal. If you can point to a document like the U.S. Constitution, written anywhere in the world by any other country that is as fair and has worked as well as ours, I'll listen. If you can find for me a more self-perfecting document than the United States Constitution, I'm all ears. If you can show me founding documents that have done more to open the floodgates of human freedom and ingenuity in the world, I'll listen. Bring me, if you can, founding documents that are filled with Christian values, Christian principles that laid the foundation for the elimination of slavery and just human relations that have transcended race. What other industrialized country would have a black president? Not only elect him once, but also twice, and have an almost black vice president in Kamala. So you put Barack and Kamala together, you get 3/4 of a black person.
It's the Constitution.
But what other nation can do that in the world? So we find ourselves in a war. The unfortunate part of the war that we're in is our children are the casualties, as we're in a fight for their hearts and minds. And I'm going to share with you in the next few minutes what I believe is a solution, and the solution is the United States Constitution. So we were in Egypt last fall, and we saw, it was an amazing country. If you ever get a chance to go there. The people are so nice. Everywhere we went, Obama, you know, they're trying to sell me something. My brother, Obama. You know, he's cool. Obama's cool, so that was great. That was the cool part of the trip, the people. But someone asked me on the trip, what do you think the solution is to all this poverty? And without skipping a beat, I said the United States Constitution. Because they need freedom. And that's the key to unlocking the mess that we're in. So one of the really cool things about serving in the Utah State Senate, and Alan Christensen, if he's here, will attest to this, is the platform that it gave me and us to speak to people, to speak to groups. And I had an experience where I was down at UVU, and I was in a class, and I was talking about principles of liberty, and one gentleman in the class, an older guy, older than me, who was going back to school for his degree, which was really cool, and commended him for that. He said, man, the Constitution was written by a bunch of farmers. It doesn't work for us, it's obsolete, has no bearing on us. So I paused, and I wanted to slap him like Will Smith slapped his But I held back, and I said, this is an opportunity to teach. And what I taught him and the people in the class is that the Constitution is based on two principles: separation of powers and checks and balances. Separation of powers and checks and balances. Can you put the next slide up? So the reason we're in the mess that we're in today, this is a beautiful quote by Jefferson. He said, "The way to have good and safe government is not to trust it all to one, but to divide it among the many, distributing to everyone exactly the function he is competent to." Decentralization. Next slide, please. What has destroyed liberty and the rights of man in every government which has ever existed under the sun? It's the generalizing, and concentrating all cares and power into one body. Oh, let's go back to that. We'll start going. Can you go back to it? Okay, all right, just leave it there. Please don't look at that yet, okay? Thank you. So, centralization of governmental power has taken power from we the people and put it in the hands of the few. It's created this elitism among the few and apathy among the many because we feel like we're powerless to do anything. The Constitution, on the other hand, was designed to preserve our individual freedom by driving decisions down to the local level, where we can solve problems where they originate. Instead, we've got a group of people in the state capitol in Washington, D.C. that are making decisions for all of us. I had an opportunity over the COVID lockdown to speak to a group of millennials, most of them of color, beautiful people, beautiful young people. And they wanted to talk to me about what's going on in Washington, D.C. as it related to their business. And then invariably we got to the conversation of, well, how do we fix the mess that we're in? Because they know that things aren't right. They know things are not right. This was in the middle of 2020 when all the rioting was going on. And I talked to them about the principle of separation of powers and that they should be empowered to make decisions and find solutions for their local community. And it resonated with them. Principles transcend party, they transcend race, they are universal. And so when we can speak principle, it does resonate with people if we give them an opportunity, if we approach them as they are our brothers and sisters. They're just a little lost. And everyone is allowed to have a Saul on the road to Damascus experience. I did. I was a Democrat before I started working on the Hill, and I met Julian. And she made me change gods and change from Democrats to Republicans.
Yeah!
So young people have a phenomenal sense of justice. They really do, because they have been products of a social justice factory. So they want to solve problems. So let's take advantage of its enthusiasm by giving them some principles that they can hang on to. So the check and balance that goes along with the separation of powers, Jay spoke so beautifully about that. And he talked about the 17th Amendment. How cool would it be if we went back to the original intent of the founders by having the state legislators, and I know that's problematic, but we can fix that problem. That's an us problem, not the folks in the state capitol. That's an us problem. If the state legislatures picked both the senators, paid their salaries, and had them report back to the state each week, thereby taking direction on how they would vote the upcoming week, and then give an accounting on the week before. So if we repeal the 17th Amendment, we wouldn't get this. Because he would come back every week and take direction from us. And then we can put people in office to represent us that actually care about the state of Utah. How about that?
Yeah!
So this slide is up there to motivate us to popularize this idea. So when we go to town hall meetings and we're with legislators, instead of throwing emotion at them, let's throw some principles at them. Let's ask them about the 17th Amendment. See if they even know about that. And if they don't, then we have our answer. So John Gatto, one of the most wonderful teachers on the planet, wrote a book, and I want to read a quote. He said, schools are intended to produce, through the application of formulas, formulate beings whose behavior can be predicted and controlled. For 140 years, this nation has tried to impose objectives downward from a lofty command center made up of experts, a central elite of social engineers. It hasn't worked, and it won't work. And it is a gross betrayal of the democratic promise that once made this nation a noble experiment. Nails it. He's exactly right. The principle that was violated is the separation of powers. It's been violated because we've centralized decision-making. So we need to focus all of our efforts. Now we can chase after issues, we can go after CRT, we can go after social and emotional learning, but we're going to eventually wear ourselves out. But if we can grab hold of the principles of the Constitution that just laid out and went after decentralizing decisions down to the local level, I think we might take care of not only that problem, but a myriad of others. So if we can focus all our efforts, as opposed to playing whack-a-mole, we just might get there. And when we talk about education, when we drive decisions down to a local level, families are giving back the freedom to design a schooling program that is right for them. Give families back their tax money to pick and choose. Who could possibly be a better shopper if the means for comparisons were made available than the parents? No large-scale reform is ever going to work to repair our damaged children and our damaged society until we force the idea of school to include family as the main engine of education.
Yes.
We really need to open up the schools. These young people sit in these walled compounds, segregated by age, with no access to the outside world until they go home. And they move from class to class at the ring of a bell. Does that create individuality? Does that create freedom? Does that enforce and strengthen families? It doesn't. It's my contention that if we chose parents the same way we chose our delegates to vet and hire and question and interview a principal before they're hired, we would dramatically change the path that we're on. Holding that principal accountable for the teachers that he or she hires and the associated curriculum adopted will be the result of decentralizing decision-making to the local level. Because I firmly believe that parents, or a parent, as there's plenty of just one-parent households, rich or poor, cares about the future of their children and will do whatever it takes to ensure their success. We've been duped by this whole notion of certification. We're not experts. There's nobody more qualified to teach their children than a mother.
Yeah.
So it's my guess that the family were given back the responsibility of educating their children and decision-making was at the local level. I think you would see a resurgence of the Pledge of Allegiance, morality, and God back into the schools. And I think that's worth the effort, to focus all our ire on decentralizing decision-making. So here's some cool things I want to share with you. It does seem like a daunting task. It really does. But if you think back to the Revolutionary War, only 3% of those individuals who lived in those 13 colonies, 3% were for freedom. 3%. So if you take the number of people that actually fought in the war, and multiply it times 5, which probably included their family members, you get to 3%. And conversely, there were probably 3% that were pro-Great Britain. So that means 94% of the people were apathetic. But if the Lord can take 3% to fulfill his purpose, how many people live in Utah? A little over 3 million? 3%. 3% is, if Abraham had found just 10 people in Sodom and Gomorrah, the Lord would have spared that city. So just imagine what he can do with 3%. So let's talk about the 4 things that we can do individually and collectively. First and foremost, we need to recognize as individuals and families that we look to God as our maker and as the source of our freedoms and blessings. The gospel of freedom and the gospel of Jesus Christ go hand in hand. And the path we've been on the last 60 plus years of lessening his influence has not worked, and it won't work. So I would invite you all to read out of Holy Writ every day so that you can discern truth from error. Because we are in a world full of misinformation, half-truths, and just outright lies. But if we have the Spirit with us, we can discern truth from error. And if you have trouble with that and don't know, then go talk to Gil Rosica, and she'll tell you. Gil Rosica from Eagle Forum. Thank you, Gil, for being here, for all that you do. And I think also that premise behind telling the truth is also something that we should not be afraid to do, as Eric did this afternoon, that the truth shall set us free, and even if it's uncomfortable, we have to bear witness. Second, we must make the creation of quality family time a high priority in our lives. And this is a picture of us 5 years ago. Our oldest daughter married Jacob. He's the white one. And they actually grew up together. So Jacob's dad actually baptized me into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So I was there when Jacob was born. And I told Kayla at her wedding, I said, I've seen Jacob naked before you.
Oh my goodness.
She hates when I tell that joke. I have to. And this was us recently in New York City. We were all together. Jake's actually taking a picture. He's still part of the family. He's taking a picture. But those are our five great, wonderful kids. Yeah, next slide. So on July 4th, 2026, I'm so excited about this. The nation will celebrate its 250th anniversary, 2026. So in preparation for this momentous occasion, we've created Land That I Love, an organization where our mission is to create awareness, excitement, and understanding about America's true history. And the centerpiece of this endeavor is the Bible of American History, which will be a commemoration of our nation's founding with an emphasis on God and his hands in the building of America. The Bible of American History will be a collection of stories from across America that highlight the resiliency, the strength, fortitude, and commitment to those from our past who paved the way for the freedoms that we enjoy today. And it's going to be incredible. So the next slide. So Eric Dowdle Folk Art is involved. He's on the left. And then Tim Ballard, who is a major author, incredible author, and president of Operation Underground Railroad. This creation will be replete with artwork. We're going to have videos, podcasts, and we're going to travel the country, going from town to town, community to community, celebrating the 250th birthday of the greatest nation on the earth.
Yeah.
So it's our hope that the Bible of American history will play an important role in helping families reconnect with the founding of this nation. Third, we must become informed and knowledgeable citizens. Understanding the principles, checks and balances, and separation of powers. Principles. And please learn the Constitution from the viewpoint of the founders. So, Julie and I belong to two organizations. Oh, that's not there. Okay. The Thomas Jefferson Center for Constitutional Studies is one organization that teaches this fabulous seminar called The Healing of America. The first seminar, we focus on God's hands in the building of America. Second, we go into the Constitution, just talking about the leading features of it. Thirdly, we talk about the systematic dismantling of the Charter of Freedom, what actually happened from a historic viewpoint. And then fourth, the most important seminar of all, is how do we put this thing back together? If it was systematically unraveled, systematically we can put it back together. My wife is involved with a fabulous organization called Moms for America. And the premise is liberty begins at home. So she teaches weekly mothers from across the country, mothers and grandmothers, how to teach principles of liberties in their home, which transforms the home. In fact, 6 women that Julene taught this year decided to run for school board because they got those principles inside them, and all 6 of them won. And we teach a class every Thursday. We started last night out of the 5,000 year league to couples from across the country. It's a lot of fun. And it starts at 9:30 p.m. and we're tired and exhausted, but it's not for us.
7:30.
9:30 Eastern.
7:30 Utah time.
9:30 Eastern. Can you all do the math and figure out Utah time? 7:30. Thanks, Julie. And fourth, we must become actively engaged in supporting good, wise, and honest people for public office and assume an active part in improving our communities. If we do those first 3 things, we focus on the Lord, we get knowledge inside of us in terms of the principles. Third, we become informed and knowledgeable citizens, and we make quality family time a high priority. If we can do those first 3 things, then automatically we'll know what to do on the 4th. We'll know who to vote for, and we'll know if we need to run for office ourselves and who to support. Accomplishing our mission is the best and sure way to frustrate and defeat those who don't love freedom as much as we do. We are wasting our time countering their rhetoric with rhetoric of our own, because they own media, colleges and universities, they own the Disney Channel. We have to roll up our sleeves and counter their rhetoric with actual action. 90% of the work is on the ground, starting within our homes first, then we go on to the community. And 10% is rhetoric. But we need that 10% because we go to these events and we go home inspired, hopefully inspired, and want to be part of the solution. So we go back recommitting ourselves to being more actively engaged. And next time we come to these activities, bring your children, bring your grandchildren, bring your children. They need to be here. If they can sit through church, they can sit through this. Again, the Lord is looking for only a few good men and women prepared and ready to bring about his purpose in helping his children live under the principles of liberty and freedom. We must firm up our own personal conversion to principles of liberty so we can convert others. Let the Constitution be our guide to restoring the Republic, thereby breaking up the monopoly of centralized decision-making, to send back to the people at the local level where individuality, freedom, and family is the solution. God will heal this land. It's our job to work as if everything depends upon us, thereby justifying the intervention of the heavens. I conclude my remarks with gratitude in my heart for the opportunity to be here, to be with you all, to be around patriots, people who love America and who love each other regardless of what we look like. and are focused more on the heart where the Lord is. And we can do this. We can do this. We just need to continually, every day, recommit ourselves as we look in the mirror to get ready. What can I do to disrupt the adversary in his kingdom today? What can I do to share principles of liberty with first in our own home and then out in the community? We can do those things. We can turn this around. I'm optimistic. I've read the book, and I know in the end we win. We just need to make sure that we're on the right side when it happens. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.